take my face, black and green. Take my face.
Recon Jeeper here. Today on Recon 1, I borrowed some toe plates from a friend of mine in our Jeep club. And I just want to check my toe in and make sure it's accurate. In the past, I've used 4-foot levels, and that method works. But today I have actual professional grade toe plates that will mount on my rotors, and then I can take measurements from behind the wheels and in front of the wheels and adjust my toe accordingly. So that's what's going on today in Jeep maintenance. All right, what I've done is I loosened up the lug nuts, lifted the front end up with my floor jack, and I've got the axle sitting on my jack stands. So today what I have, they're made by this LROR toe plates. My buddy Dan picked these up. I think he got them on Amazon. And you know, for as many times as I've had issues, you know, you go wheeling and you know the tie rod sits low, and you can see it takes a lot of shots. You know, quite honestly, there aren't too many times that I drive home after a hard day of wheeling and my steering wheel isn't a little off. I mean, it happens. Sometimes I'll just adjust the drag link and live with it, but it's a real good idea to check your toe in, and for the Jeep JK, it really should be pigeon-toed in about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch to have the Jeep track nicely. So today I'm going to be taking these tires off, putting the toe plates on and taking some measurements. I'll be loosening up this adjustment sleeve on the tie rod, and I'll set that toe in perfectly, and then I'll take a ride and see how my steering wheel looks, and then if I have to, I will loosen up the adjustment sleeve on the drag link right there and then center my steering wheel. It's an easy job, but it's something that if you own a JK and you're constantly hitting your tie rod, even if you've beefed it up, you're going to have to deal with this. Perhaps some of the guys now are getting these aluminum tie rod, at least the aluminum adjustment sleeve. I run the Steer Smarts Yeti setup, and I'm not going to lie to you, my tie rod is slightly bent. My ends are actually slightly bent on both sides, and because it's steel, unless you've got access to a huge press and you want to mess around with trying to straightening it, chances are this tie rod, its days are numbered. I was just trying to get a little more out of it, and I noticed now that Steer Smarts sells their Pro Series aluminum adjustment sleeve, and I'm probably going to have to buy new ends and that whole setup. So that's probably not too far down the road, but for today, obviously I want to get as much as I can out of the existing setup that I have. So we're going to check the toe in. Okay, looking at the rotor and the caliper, you can take this caliper completely off by undoing the two 21 millimeter bolts in the back, swinging it up out of the way and setting it up there by the spring. That would then give you a 100% flat surface to mount the toe plates that we can put over the studs as spacers, then put the toe plate up against the bolts. Everything's pressed nicely. It does the same thing. All it does is it moves the toe plate out so that it can be on like this with the caliper, and it can save you a step. So I'm going to look at that and see how it looks. Okay, you can see that the toe plate is on, and what I've done is it's very easy. I put the large nuts behind it. This works beautifully, and all it does is it spaces the toe plate out so it clears the caliper. So that's all we've accomplished. So now if you look across there, you would say, well, oh man, I mean, how am I going to measure that? I got a control arm there. I've got the front drive shaft, but this can just be rotated down like that. And now I'd be able to line up this end, hook my tape measure right here, and get very accurate measurement straight across to the other side. And then you can see I can do the same thing here. Obviously, we have less obstacles right here, so I'll line them up nice and straight, and then we can take an accurate measurement across the two. Remembering that from the rear of the wheel, this is the front, from the rear of the wheel to the front, we want the front somewhat pigeon-toed inboard. The dimensions, the measurements, what we're seeking is a 1/16 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch pigeon-toed in, the toe in. That's what we're trying to adjust. And these plates they're beautiful, they're high quality. I'm very impressed with their rigidity and how strong and straight they are. So good product for sure. And I think I'll be adding these to my arsenal because constantly having to deal with tie rod issues from hardcore off-roading and hitting rocks and so forth. So that's where we are. Okay, unless this is perfect, most likely I'm going to be making an adjustment. So if you run the Steer Smarts Yeti, you have 15 millimeter on the bolt head, 18 millimeter on the nut. So I'd be loosening up this side, the driver's side and the passenger side. The only other thing that remains to be done is see the steering stabilizer right there, the bolt on the top that holds the steering stabilizer on top of the bracket that clamps around the tie rod. That also needs to be removed, so obviously, so I can turn it. So I'm going to be adjusting that as well, or removing that bolt. Okay, so you can see that the front is 66 7/8. Now we're going to take a measurement on the back side. All right, well, I just checked the back, and my measurement came out to be 67. So that means my toe is actually perfect. I'm inboard 1/8 of an inch. I knew that possibility existed, but I wanted to check it. Last time I did mine, I had used 4-foot levels, and then I used some clamps at Harbor Freight, and I clamped them to the bottom of the rotors and on each side and performed this same task. Very, very happy with this. So that's really good. I'm going to start putting everything back together, and I really couldn't be happier with this. So it's kind of a good thing that I did not loosen up my adjustment sleeve on my tie rod or anything. However, since I've got the wrenches out, I'm going to take my torque wrench and set it up for 50 foot-pounds, which is acceptable for the clamps on the Steer Smart adjustment sleeve for the tie rod. So we're going to torque those bolts, check them for 50 foot-pounds. Very, very pleased with this. Okay, I just want to take a minute to look at something. So here's my coil. Obviously, it's all compressed because the axle's on jack stands. But a lot of times, this is a 2.5-inch Terraflex suspension on this Jeep. And a lot of times what would happen is I'd be off-roading, and after I disconnected my front sway bar and the front axle really drooped, the coil would decompress and loosen up so much so that I would hear this loud snap when it would go back in. And you can see here there's a little detent that the coil sits in, and it kind of locks in there on the perch. Well, Terraflex sells these nice little brackets. It looks so simple, but you know, I still hear it on the trail. A lot of people, their coils will release and they'll actually pop off the perch. So what this bracket does is it just goes right in between the coil right there. You drill a hole through the perch, and then I think it's a 5/16 bolt goes through and it gets nutted underneath. And what it does is it always holds the coil in place on the perch. And I really like that because I used to always have to adjust this thing and put it back into place. So something so simple but very good. It's interesting that the rear axle has coil retainers on the perches for the rear coils that come with the actual kit. So those stay in place even if they were to fully extend on a full droop. So just a little sidebar there. All right, once again, the toe was perfect. I have been driving for a while now with my steering wheel slightly off. It obviously has nothing to do with the toe in. I'm going to disconnect loosen up the adjustment sleeve on the drag link and make an adjustment on that. That's easy. Just want to get the steering wheel at 12 o'clock. But I am going to check the adjustment sleeves for proper torque. Steer Smart says 45 to 50 foot-pounds on these. So I'm going to check those out. I run them at 50. But I do look forward to putting the Aluminum Pro Series tie rod on there. That has like a 4 or a 5-inch long clamp, a real long sleeve, which covers all of this with 2 bolts instead of 1. The bolts get torqued to like 80, 85 foot-pounds. Another friend of mine, Jim, just recently installed it on his Rubicon. So we'll see how his performs on the trail. And of course, it's aluminum. So the idea being it will flex and then go back into shape, as opposed to what happens here with so many of us with the steel. You end up having to deal with a severe bend. So kind of frustrating. Okay, just put the wheels back on. I'll be dropping them down on the ground, taking the front axle off the jack stands, and then torquing these front wheels. I torque mine to 110 foot-pounds all the way around. That's the number I use, and that works for me with these rims. All right, just to give you an idea what I'm talking about. You know, you're looking at your steering wheel, and you know, maybe it's 1/8 of an inch off, maybe 1/4. Some probably wouldn't even mess with it, but I'm going to adjust this steering wheel back over counterclockwise a little bit to get the Jeep logo perfectly horizontal. All right, once again, a relatively easy job. This is your drag link right here. Comes off the pitman arm. This is the adjustment sleeve, and then it goes into the steering knuckle over there, okay? So what we're going to do is, these are torqued to 50 foot-pounds. We're going to loosen this nut and bolt, and we're going to loosen this nut and bolt, and then I'm going to turn this adjustment sleeve. We'll see which way I got to turn it to make the steering wheel turn, in my case, counterclockwise to center it. What I've done is I've just taken a little Sharpie and made a mark on the actual end, the drag link end, and then the adjustment sleeve. That's all. So I can see which way I'm turning it in case I'm turning it the wrong way. This is a lot easier if you've got someone sitting behind the wheel of the Jeep, but it may take a couple times, but this is no big deal. Very easy job. All right. So these are loose right here, the adjustment sleeve clamp in this one. So in my case, to make my steering wheel turn counterclockwise, I rotated the adjustment sleeve upward. Upward made the steering wheel turn counterclockwise. Therefore, if you needed to go clockwise, you would turn it downwards. So there you go. So now I'm going to tighten these back up, and I will torque them right now because I want them nice and tight. And then I'm going to take the Jeep for a ride, make sure I've got it really dialed in. And if I don't, I'll come back and make another adjustment. That's all. All right, the Jeep is driving nice and straight. And when we look down at the steering wheel is nice and straight. So I'm very pleased with this. Okay, I'm very happy to say I took it for a ride. Steering wheel is perfect. It's driving really nicely right now. So this concludes a lot of Jeep maintenance that took place this week. You know, things that you just have to do from time to time, especially when you've got the time. Take advantage of it and make things happen. So got a lot done. The Jeep is driving really nice, and Recon 1 is ready for its next off-roading adventure, which hopefully will be very soon. All right, Recon Jeeper out. Just want to take a look at the rock hard 4x4 rear bumper / tire carrier. It's a really beefy piece of hardware here for sure. So the 37 sits on it nicely. The high lift jack mounts underneath it. You know, you won't get at it super fast. Obviously, you got to take your spare tire off first. And in my case, I relocated my rear license plate to inside the rim as well. But that's okay. I mean, it can all be gotten at relatively easy. So here is the rock hard 4x4 driver's side jerry can mount. And I just mounted it up today. Takes 2-inch U-bolts that go around there, and I generally put a jam nut on it, make it real tight, but it's snug, it sits good. And obviously you can see that where it used to be mounted way up here when I ran the 35-inch tire. Now with the larger diameter for the 37-inch tire, it just slides down on this piece of channel right here. So very pleased. I'll close this up and take a look at it from the front. Nice setup. Okay, so here is a look at it with the tire carrier closed up. Basically, there's a little bit of wiggle room in these holes right here so that you can use a torpedo level and get it nice and level. So when you're looking at it from a distance, everything looks nice. Take a look at it here at the front. Nice setup. All right, I made some adjustments on the rock hard 4x4 jerry can mount. I got that thing looking nice and level now. It had taken a shot before on the trail, so I had to do a little bending and so forth to get it nice, but it's looking really good. I do love this. This holds And I can put 5 gallons of fuel in here, and what I do is I run a cable python lock through here. So it locks the jerry can onto the mount. And what's so nice about this is I've got a siphon that goes right in here and right to the gas tank. So without even taking the jerry can off the Jeep, I can very easily put the siphon in there. It's a self-starter. You tap it up and down a few times and it primes itself, and it'll put that 5 gallons of gas in the tank in about 2 minutes. So this is really nice for the long trips, trips where you think that gas might be a problem. So I find it to be a really good mount. It's nice and secure, and I'm very pleased with it. And I run it on the Jeep a lot. All right, great day. Couple things done. Only one more thing left to do, and I might do it tomorrow when it's a little warmer, and that will be to unravel the winch line, the worn winch line, the cable, and leave all but a few coils around the drum. You can see it. It's kind of gnarly in there, and then put the vehicle in neutral and let the winch wrap it under load in neutral and get that thing guided all nicely onto the drum, so I'm in the go position for my next trip. So really got a lot done. Very, very pleased with how it's running. Great day. Recon Jeeper out. You might say, well, how do you get this jerry can off of here to get your gas into the Jeep? And I keep it all locked up for security measures, but I've got a self-starting siphon. So I open this up right here, I drop it in, I prime it up and down a few times, and then it's long enough where it just comes right around into the gas tank here. And I can siphon that 5 gallons of gas out of that jerry can into the Jeep in about 2 minutes. Done it many times. It's a real good feature to have on the Jeep. Obviously, the only, it adds a little bit of extra weight on the tire carrier, but the tire carrier is designed, it can take up to a 40-inch tire, and it's designed to take these kind of heavy loads, so I've never had any problem with it. The only thing that you need to be conscious with if you're wheeling on tight trails, which happened to me, is I was cutting it really close to a tree, and you got to remember that jerry can is right there, so you're sticking out, an extra 18 inches, let's say, from the tub of the rear of the Jeep. So that's the only thing you want to be mindful of. But besides that, it's very stout, it's very handy, and I'm really pleased with it.